A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another playthrough of a fighting fantasy book. This time we are going to play through Shadow of the Giants by Ian Livingstone. We have our character sheet here. I've taken a potion of strength. We've got 10 provisions, a backpack, and a sword. We still have to roll our skill, stamina, and luck. So skill is 6 plus a d6. We have a skill of 8. Stamina is 2d6 plus 12. Wow. Stamina of 16. And our luck is a d6 plus 6. Luck of 11. Okay. So there we have it. Not very skillful. We have our fantastic map here. Let's get straight into the background. Less than a day's walk from Firetop Mountain, Anvil is a bustling mining town which began as a small settlement and quickly grew following the discovery of gold in nearby caves. The menfolk are mostly gold miners, whilst the womenfolk are the lawmakers who mete out tough justice to wrongdoers found guilty of any crime. There was never a lot to see or do in Anvil. Visitors were few other than local farmers selling their produce or sneaky thieves who slipped into town to try their luck on unsuspecting citizens. The only other outsiders in town were the rugged dwarf gold miners hired in from nearby Stonebridge. Eager to shake hands with everybody, the dwarves would greet people with an outstretched hand and a beaming smile. The residents soon learned to avoid their handshakes, since a dwarf miner's huge, big-knuckled hand would crush theirs, which, if it happened, would send the dwarves into fits of laughter. It was all a game to them. Following a long stint in the mines, the dwarves would let off steam by taking part in arm wrestling contests in the noisy taverns of Anvil, risking their hard-earned pay and wages. Most were bad losers, and many a punch was thrown following a loss in a close-fought contest. Pardon me. Travelling merchants avoided the mining town, so the mayor built a permanent market in the town square. She made a deal with the merchants of Card for Anvil to become the eastern terminus for their trade routes across the pagan plains. The new market quickly became popular, attracting both the merchants of Card and people from the surrounding villages. While some of them would fall foul of a miner's handshake or a sly thief, the market boomed. You're an adventurer who has recently arrived in Anvil to buy a new sword to replace the one you broke, forcing a dungeon door open on a quest to find a treasure chest. The chest contained a map and 50 gold pieces. Mark it on your adventuring sheet. Okay, so I have 50 gold and a map. Interesting. You're eager to go on another quest, this time to Firetop Mountain. Okay, that's pretty cool because the Warlock of Firetop Mountain was the first fighting fantasy book. I like that. There were scribblings on the back of the map which described a large quantity of gold concealed in a secret room by the Warlock Zagor. But you dare not venture into the monster-filled passageways beneath Firetop Mountain without a new sword. Oh, we own a Firetop Mountain in this. That's cool. Wary of Anvil's thieves, you hide half your gold in your clothing and half inside a secret pocket in your backpack. It is early morning and you're walking through Anvil's crowded market, looking at the various stalls. You are not alone. The market is busy with people buying cloth, food, spices, weapons, and tools from the brightly robed merchants who make shrill cries to attract their customers. Unable to find a sword to your liking, you're about to leave the market when you feel a tug on your arm. You turn around and see a scrawny, one-legged old man in scruffy clothes peering up at you through half-closed eyes, his mouth hanging open. I saw you looking at those swords back there. None take your fancy, did they? He says in a scratchy voice. Maybe I can help. Dunbar Lap's my name, and selling is my game. I know someone who has the best swords in town, much better quality than anything those swindlers from Card have got to offer. Interested? The old man appears harmless enough, and you tell him to take you to the sword seller. He leads you out of the market and down a narrow street, his wooden crutch tapping on the tapping sharply on the cobblestones. The top floors of the creaking wooden houses on both sides of the street jut out overhead, and when you hear a shrill cry of "look out below" from above, you manage to dodge being drenched by a bucket of dirty water tossed out of an upstairs window. You are lucky that was water. Sometimes it isn't, Dunbar says, chuckling. You pass the locals on their way to the market, but they pay you no attention. Dunbar tells you, Dunbar talks non-stop, telling you in gruesome detail how he lost his leg to a snow wolf in the Icefinger Mountains when he was young. You arrive at a shop with heavy wooden shutters pulled back from the window. "Here we are, swords and shields," he announces proudly with that sweeping gesture of his hand. He invites you to go in, saying, "Amaric stocks every type of sword you could ever want. He'll see you right. I'll wait for you outside and trust you'll tip me later." Your adventure awaits. Yes, it does. Okay. A small brass bell jingles overhead as you walk through the doorway into the shop. Inside, you see a huge display of swords and shields mounted on the walls. On the floor to your left, there is a wooden barrel full of spears, and on your right, a collection of daggers and axes sticking out of an old tree stump. Wearing leather armor to protect him, a tall man with a flat nose and brown hair is standing behind the counter opposite with his arms folded. He looks at you suspiciously as you enter and reaches down to produce a wooden club from under the counter. "You're not from these parts, stranger. How can I help you?" he asks in a firm voice. Ask if he knows Dunbar. Tell him you'd like to buy a sword, or jump over the counter and attack him? Tell him, ask if he knows Dunbar. The armourer puts down the wooden club. "Dunbar Lap, you say? No, never heard of him. Why?" You explain Dunbar Lap brought you to his shop to buy a sword. The man bursts out laughing and says, "Of course I know Dunbar. He's a good man. He brings me lots of customers. This is your lucky day. You are the 100th customer he has brought to me this year, which means you're entitled to a free dagger if you buy one of my swords." Okay. What do you say? Whilst waiting for your reply, he takes one sword down from the wall and another from under the counter. "These are the best I have," he says in a friendly voice. The sword with the engraved blade is the vampire sword, which was designed for slaying the undead. I'm only asking 10 gold pieces for it. The sword with the flame-coloured grip is a fire sword, which is best for fighting fire-breathing creatures. At 15 gold pieces, it's a bargain. If you want to buy a sword, make your choice. I'm going to go the fire sword and take 15 away, giving me 35 gold. If you want to buy a sword, make your choice. If you decide not to buy the sword, well, I bought the sword. So we go to 297. The armourer thanks you for buying the sword and says, "I think you'll be very happy with your choice." He gives you a shiny dagger. Okay. Which you tuck inside your boot before shaking your hand and bidding you farewell. You go outside where you find Dunbar Lap waiting for you. He smiles when he sees your sword and cannot conceal his excitement. "I hope you are pleased with your new weapon," he asks enthusiastically. You tell him you are more than happy with your purchase and the gift of a dagger. You drop 2 gold into his hands as a tip. Down to 33 gold. Thank him for his help and wave him goodbye. Turn to 381. Okay. Your thoughts return to Firetop Mountain and the legendary treasures hidden inside. You are keen to try your luck, but are also aware of the dangers which lie inside the deadly tunnels. The reason that it would be better to team up with somebody who has knowledge of the mountain to give you a better chance of survival. You decide to see if you can hire a miner to accompany you on your quest. The best place to find the dwarves would be a tavern where they would likely to be letting off steam. You walk briskly through the back streets and arrive at a tavern by the name of the Double Duck. from where you can hear a lot of shouting and screaming coming from inside. You poke your head around the tavern door and see a fight going on between two dwarves who are rolling around on the floor, knocking lumps out of each other. The other dwarves in the tavern are sweeping back tankards of frothy ale and cheering on the brawling pair. The tall barman suddenly rings a brass bell to end the fight and declare who won. The bruised dwarves stand up and give each other a hug before staggering over to the bar where the winner buys the loser a drink. With order restored, the dwarves sit down at the tables, laughing, joking, and recounting tales of their mining exploits. One of the dwarves sitting at the nearest table to the door points at you and says, "Oi, sunshine, do you fancy your chances at arm wrestling? 2 gold pieces says I can beat you. If you want to accept the challenge, you'd rather sit down." I've got enough gold. I'll arm wrestle this stunty prick. You sit down opposite the dwarf, who shakes your hand, grinning confidently. He tries to crush your fingers, but you give as good as you get. A crowd quickly gathers around the table, shouting encouragement as you lock hands in earnest to begin the contest. You stare each other down as the barman gives the conditions. 3, 2, 1, heave. Roll 2 dice and add the total to the dwarf's skill of 7. Roll 2 dice and add the total to your skill. Okay. The dwarf has a skill of 7. 17. I have a skill of 8. 15. Oh, he beat me. Okay. If it is lower, you lose the contest. 154. Okay, you might be able to hear an ambulance going past. The dwarf punches the air and lets out a victory cry. His friends join in the celebrations, cheering even louder than before, spilling their ale as they dance around the tavern. The dwarf looks at you with a smug expression on his bearded face. That'll be 2 gold if you don't mind. You hand over the gold, so I'm down to 31. You hand over the gold pieces to the beaming dwarf. You become aware that your arm is hurting. You have strained your biceps. Lose 1 skill and 1 luck. Okay, 7 skill, 10 luck. Annoyed with yourself for getting injured, you look around for somewhere else to sit down. 340. You walk over to an alcove at the back of the double duck and sit down opposite 2 dwarves who are playing a noisy game of dice. The older one with the longer beard is accusing the other one of cheating. You cough loudly to get their attention and introduce yourself by asking if either of them would like to join you on a treasure hunting trip to Firetop Mountain. They put down their dice and say they are very interested in joining you on a quest. Both claim to have explored the tunnels of Firetop Mountain before. The older dwarf with ginger hair and a long beard, drooping mustache and ruddy cheeks is called Higley, who tells you he's experienced and trustworthy. He asks for an advance payment of 4 pieces of gold and a share of half the treasure found. The young dwarf with long brown hair and the shorter beard is called Ghibli, who says he's a fearless fighter and will join you for an immediate payment of 2 gold plus a third of the treasure you find. Higley's the older one. He has experience, but then I have to pay him more. Yeah, my skill is pretty bad. I'm going to go with Ghibli for 2 gold and a third. Okay, 206. Higley shrugs his shoulders and says, "No hard feelings. I'm sure Ghibli will serve you well. Good luck, you'll need it." He gets up from the table and saunters over to the bar to join the other miners. Ghibli smiles and says, "Don't worry about grumpy old Higley. He's just jealous. You made the right decision. When do you want to set off?" You reply that you would like to get going as soon as possible. Ghibli says that is fine with him, as he needs to be back in Anvil the day after tomorrow for his gold mining job. You chat about your plan of action over a bowl of thick vegetable soup, a speciality of the tavern. Ghibli wipes his mouth with the back of his sleeve and stands up. "That was delicious," he says, belching. "Now I need to get my axe, backpacking, and water bottle from my room. If you give me 3 gold pieces, 2 for me and 1 to buy some climbing rope, I'll be back in under an hour." You give him the gold. And watch him walk out onto the street. Spend the next hour watching the dwarves arm wrestle and sing. As time passes, you begin to wonder What's happened to Ghibli? When Higley strolls over and says casually, "You are fooling yourself if you think he's coming back. He'll be down the mines by now. This isn't the first time he's run off with somebody's money. You can hardly believe what Higley tells you. If you want to wait a bit longer for Ghibli to come back, or if you'd rather hire Higley instead." I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I trust him. Higley shakes his head and says, "Don't hold your breath. I'll be over here if you need me." You watch him walk over to a group of dwarves who are playing cards. You wait for Ghibli for another 30 minutes until it dawns on you that he isn't coming back. This one. I am so bad at these game books. You walk over to Higley, who greets you by saying, "If you want me to join your Firetop Mountain adventure, my fee's now gone up to 6 gold pieces in advance." That's the price for doubting me. I'm down to 20 gold. You have no choice but to agree to his terms. 128. Higley holds out his hands for you to count out the gold coins. He thanks you with a nod of his head and says enthusiastically, "Firetop Mountain awaits us. I am ready to go when you are." He grabs his axe, a coil of rope, and his backpack from behind the bar and follows you out of the tavern. You tell Higley that you want to set off immediately, but he says he never goes treasure hunting without first going to see Mystic Mary, the local soothsayer, who always gives him helpful advice. I didn't take his word the first time. I'm going to take his word this time. 247. Okay, there's Mystic Mary. Okay. Higley leads you through the back streets of Anvil before turning down a narrow alleyway. You grip the hilt of your sword, wary that he might be leading you into a trap, but your fears are quickly allayed when you arrive outside a small house at the end of the alleyway, which has a door with the words Mystic Mary on the nameplate. Higley opens the door and walks in without waiting to be asked. You follow him inside a small room where you see a young woman with long black hair sitting in a rocking chair and stroking a black cat on her lap in front of an open fireplace. She's wearing a long black dress and has a red shawl wrapped around her neck. She looks at you out of the corner of her eyes and with a hint of a smile says, "Welcome. I believe you're here to seek my words of wisdom regarding a quest you're about to embark on. If that is indeed the case, please drop one gold piece into my little friend here." She points to a small ceramic money box on a small round-topped tripod table next to her. It is in the shape of a pig with a coin slot in the back. Okay, Mystic Mary. 19. If you want to put one gold piece in a box, turn to 112. Okay. Mary closes her eyes and begins to stroke her cat very gently as she recites a short rhyme in a barely audible whisper. "The eyes of the dragon are the gems on its head. Green is life and red is dead." She opens her eyes again, smiles and says, "Good luck on your adventure." Higley thanks her for her help and leaves the hut. You follow him outside and ask him what dragon eyes have got to do with Firetop Mountain. Higley shrugs his shoulders and says, "Who knows, but I'm sure Mary's rhyme will aid us on our quest." You repeat the rhyme to memorize it and leave Anvil to begin your treasure hunting quest. Okay, 191. You head east, chatting excitedly with Higley about treasure hunting. Ahead you see the ominous fire-red peak of Firetop Mountain, its menacing steep face strewn with sharp crags of rock jutting out from it. As you approach the mountain, you see a cave entrance ahead. "Ha! Here we are," Higley calls out loudly. He pulls his axe from his belt and steps into the gloom. The walls inside the cave are slimy and there are pools of dank water on the floor, which give the air a musty smell. You set off down the passageway at the back of the cave and soon come to an inn-junction. You ask Higley which way you should go, and he replies that going left is pointless, since treasure hunters have long since looted everything in that section of the mountain. You turn right and notice a small hole in the wall. You peer into the cavity, but it's too dark to see what is inside. Do I want to reach in the hole, or do I want to walk on? There's no fucking way I am reaching into that hole. I've seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and no. Just no. I'm going to walk on. 49. You soon arrive at a wooden door that has been smashed open, hangs in pieces on its rusty hinges. You peer into the gloom and see a clay pit just beyond the doorway. Higley ties one end of his climbing rope to the door hinge before throwing it down into the pit. He grins and says, "I'll go first," and grabs the rope to slide down into the pit. "Nothing to see down here," he says, looking up. You tell him not to be so hasty and slide down the rope to join him. You inspect the pit wall carefully and notice a faint vertical crack in the clay. You tell Higley to swing his axe at the wall and hear a dull clang as his blade strikes solid metal. You help him clear away the clay to reveal an iron door which is etched with figures of fire-breathing dragons. Higley urges caution, but when you cannot resist trying the handle, much to your surprise, it turns and you pull the creaking door open. You enter a small stone-walled chamber where you see an ancient wooden chest with thick brass edging on a marble plinth. Although it is quite dark inside the chamber, you can see that the far wall is decorated with a colourful painting of an old bearded wizard in long robes. Holding a glass orb from which swirling gases are escaping. A huge dragon appears to be materializing from out of the gases. "This could be a painting of Zagor, the evil warlock who used to live inside the mountain," Higley says excitedly. "And this could be his long-lost treasure chest." You walk around the plinth looking for traps before inspecting the chest, which has 2 rows of interlocking dragon teeth securing the lid of the frame to the chest. You can't find a lock, but there are 2 gemstone eyes, 1 emerald and 1 ruby, set in the lid, which is shaped like the top of a dragon's skull. Higley suggests you should try pressing one of the gems, which might open the chest. If you want to press the emerald eye or the ruby eye. Well, this is a no-brainer. Thank you, Mary. Green is life. Red is dead. 327. You hear a faint click when you press the emerald eye and watch the lid slowly lift open like a huge mouth. On a red velvet cushion inside, you see a polished iron crown adorned with 4 iron warriors spaced equally apart on the rim. The warriors are all standing to attention with their hands resting on the hilt of their downward pointing swords. "What a fantastic looking crown," exclaims Higley. "It must have magic powers. I'm going to put it on." If you want to let Higley try on the crown, or if you want to try on the crown yourself, what sort of a fucking choice is this? Okay, so we're in Firetop Mountain. It's the Warlord Zagor's secret treasure chest. There's an iron crown. You know what? There's no way I'm putting that on my head. Higley, knock yourself out. "Fortune favors the brave," Higley says cheerfully as he places the crown on his head. You watch him lift the velvet cushion out of the chest in hope of finding more treasure, but there is nothing else inside. "We might as well take these gems," he says, drawing his dagger. He begins to prise the ruby out of the eye socket when suddenly he drops his dagger. He looks alarmed and grabs the crown with both hands. "It's crushing my head," he says with a look of fear in his eyes. He tugs at the crown, but is unable to take it off. Even with your help, it tightens even more around his head, causing him considerable pain. But he manages to climb out of the pit and stagger outside, still pulling on the crown before collapsing on the ground. Daylight has activated the evil magic in a spell that was cast on the iron crown years ago. It drops off Higley's head and rolls away as if being controlled. You watch on incredulously as the 4 iron warriors on the rim of the crown come alive. They jump down from the crown onto the ground and stand at attention in a circle, swords raised and tips touching. They grow quickly, and within seconds they are towering above you like a group of 5-meter high iron statues. Although unable to see you, the iron giants sense your presence. Their heads turn towards you in unison, and one swings its huge sword down at you. Roll 2 dice. Three. If the number rolled is less than or equal to your skill, 1, 4, 6. You dive sideways and just manage to avoid being hit by the sword. You jump up and run back into the cave to escape the iron giants. Looking out from the safety of the cave entrance, you watch them continue to grow till they stand some 10 meters tall. Without warning, they all turn around at the same time and slowly stride off west towards the pagan plains. Their giant articulated limbs making grating metallic sounds as they walk, and their thumping iron feet crushing anything in their path underfoot. As soon as they're gone, you run outside to where Higley is lying motionless on the ground, barely alive. It's the crown of chaos. I am doomed, he whispers, struggling to breathe, his face contorted in pain. The Iron Giants will destroy Alancia. Take the crown to Marek Omyash in Hamelin. He will help you. The magic items you'll need to find in Hamelin are... But before he can finish his sentence, Higley falls silent. His eyes close and never to open again. Lose 1 luck. I haven't even tested my luck, and I'm down 3 luck points. Jeez Louise, this is brutal. It is. I know. Can Daddy continue? Thank you. You place the crown in your backpack and set off southeast towards Hamelin. You look back momentarily to see the Iron Giants marching slowly on, towering above the trees. An hour later, you arrive at the Red River, where you see an old man with a wizened face lying asleep in a rowing boat, which has been pulled up onto the bank. If you want to talk to the old man, if you'd rather keep on walking along the riverbank. Where is Hamelin? Do I have to cross the river? Okay, here's the pagan. There's Anvil. There's Firetop Mountain. Hamelin. It's on the other side of the river, so I should talk to this old guy. I think. 215. You cough loudly to wake the old man, who leaps up looking startled. He grabs an oar and tells you not to come any closer. Will you ask him, draw your sword, apologise for waking him up? I'm going to ask him to take me to Hamelin. 257. The old man relaxes and says, Hamelin is far too far away for me to row to. In the old days, I used to run a ferry service across the underground river inside Firetop Mountain, but people stopped coming. I'm retired now, but I'll sell you my boat. If it is of interest, pay me 5 gold pieces and it's yours. I don't trust this guy. I'm going to go to 58. Fuck you, old man. It's not long before you come to an old log cabin which has a small vegetable patch in front of it. Smoke drips up from the chimney, and you see there are 2 saddled horses tethered to a nearby post. If you want to knock on the door of the cabin, 388, yes I do. You walk up to the front door of the cabin and bang on it with the pommel of your sword. You hear dogs barking ferociously from inside. Go away or I'll set my dogs on you, a man's angry voice calls out. If you want to knock again, if you'd rather continue walking east, I'll knock again. You knock rapidly on the door and hear the man call out in an even angrier voice, did you not hear me? I said go away or I'll set my dogs on you. If you want to ask him if you can buy one of his horses. I want to buy one of his horses. I need a fucking horse to get to Hamelin. 348. The door is suddenly yanked open by a grim-faced, skinny man with bushy beard and wiry hair sticking out all over the place. That's the dude. He's wearing a grubby shirt tucked into his baggy trousers, which are held up by a leather belt with a dragon's head buckle made of brass. 2 huge slavering warhounds with sharp fangs stand by his side, barking loudly, straining at the leash, wild-eyed and ready to attack. The man looks you up and down and says sharply, why didn't you say you wanted to buy a horse in the first place? My name's Harold Hoggett, and my playful little puppies here are called Chulia and Jorg. Don't worry, they won't attack you unless I tell them to. Where are you headed to? If you want to reply, it's none of his business. I'm just telling him Hamelin. 34. Hamelin, says Hoggett, with raised eyebrows. What takes you to that town of tricksters? It must be something important. If you want to ask him if he has heard of Marek Omyash. 333. I'm going to ask him if he's heard of Marek. Hoggett offers you a chair before sitting down in an old threadbare armchair with his dogs lying at his feet. He looks at you curiously and says, yes, I do know Marek. Why do you want to see him? If you tell Hoggett about the Crown of Chaos and the Iron Giants, you reply that you are an old friend of Marek's. I've been truthful with this guy so far. So I'm going to tell him about the Crown of Chaos, 262. You show Hoggett the Crown of Chaos and tell him how you came to find it in Firetop Mountain and how the Iron Giants rose up and headed west. You tell him that Higley said before he died about having to find Maragom-Yash, but he didn't know why you should find him or exactly where to find him. Hoggett looks at you in shock and says, "The Iron Giants have risen? This is disastrous news. Had he lived, poor Higley would have told you that Marek is one of only a handful of people in Alancia who knows how to defeat the Iron Giant. What Higley didn't know is that ever since his wife Velma died, Marek has lived as a recluse in Hamlin. He refuses to see anybody these days. I met him years ago when we fought shoulder to shoulder against the lizard men in the Battle of Fire Island. That is cool. And we became blood brothers. But if you wear this, I know he will speak to you." Hoggett takes off his chain necklace and hands it to you. There is a silver medallion hanging from it with a dragon's head engraved on the face. Show him the medallion and tell him Harold Hoggett says hello, he says calmly. Marek will likely be wearing the same medallion. Now you must be on your way. The fate of Atlantia is in your hands. There is no time to lose. Save your gold. Please take my horse with my compliments. I would join you, but I'm frail and have my dogs and horses to look after. Okay. This just got interesting. Hoggett goes outside and unties the reins of a sleek chestnut horse called Willow, which he tells you he named after the old tree in his garden. He helps you up into the saddle and says, "Out of respect of Marek, I suggest you pay a visit to a graveyard outside Hamlin. His wife is buried there. By the way, it's the first day of unlocking tomorrow, which means the Hamlin Fair will be on. There will be entertainers, stalls, contests, and all manner of fun things happening. You never know, Maragom-Yash might sneak in for a while. It was always his favourite day of the year. But watch out for hustlers, especially card sharps. They'll rob you of your gold before you know it." You thank Hoggett for his help. He shakes your hand before giving Willow a kick slap on the rump to send him away. You gallop across the grasslands, following the river and on through a grove where you see a bearded man is tied up to an old oak tree. He's wearing a leather waistcoat and has a leather headband to keep his long hair out of his eyes. When he sees you, he calls out, begging you to stop. You bring Willow to a halt and trot over to the oak tree where, looking around to make sure it is not a trap before asking the man what happened. "My name is Victor," he replies desperately. "I was on my way from Zengis to the Moonstone Hills when 3 goblins jumped out at me from behind the trees. They took everything I had. Please untie me and I'll forever be in your debt." Okay. Am I a nice adventurer, or does this look like a trap to me? This looks like a trap. Yeah. Fuck this guy. It is late afternoon by the time you see the small town of Hamlin in the distance on the other side of the river. Ahead you see a small jetty to which a wooden raft is moored. A young woman wearing brown breeches and a baggy white shirt is sitting on a bench at the end of the jetty, busy casting a fishing line into the water. She turns around when your horse whinnies. You notice that she has an angry scar running the length of her face and a patch over her left eye. She stands up and says, "The fishing is good today, but I'm not in the mood to run my ferry services. My name is Rosa, and if you want me to take you across the river, it's going to cost you 10 gold pieces, or I'll take your horse in payment. You have no need for it in Hamlin." I'm going to pay her 10 gold. I don't think I should sell a horse that technically isn't mine. If you want to pay her 10 gold to cross on a raft, 280. You jump down from your horse and hand Rosa 10 gold pieces, which she tucks into a leather pouch on her belt. "All aboard," she says enthusiastically. Taking Willow's reins, Rosa gently leads the horse to the log raft, which starts to rock from side to side. Willow whinnies loudly, rears up on his hind legs, and jumps back onto the riverbank. Before he can grab hold of the reins, he gallops off at high speed back towards old Harold Hoggett's. You whistle loudly, but Willow ignores you and is soon out of sight. Lose 1 luck. Well, I don't mind losing that luck because it was Harold's horse anyway. So that's fine. "That was unfortunate," Rosa says without any sympathy in her voice. "You might as well jump on board because I'm not giving you your money back." You step onto the raft and watch Rosa take a long wooden pole and push off from the bank. Plunging the pole into the fast-flowing water, she pushes down against the riverbed and effortlessly drives the raft across the river in just a few minutes. You jump on the wooden jetty on the south bank and watch Rosa go back without so much as a goodbye. You shrug your shoulders and walk towards Hamlin, which you see as a small town with overhanging timber-framed houses and some smaller buildings beyond. To your left and right, to your right, there are farm workers toiling away in the field, digging up carrots and potatoes and loading them onto carts. There's an old graveyard to your left with weathered gravestones crammed around large rows surrounding a large vine-covered stone tomb. Look at the gravestones. It's what Harold told me to do. The graveyard is neglected and overgrown with weeds and ivy. Some gravestones are broken, whilst others are covered with moss. Their engravings hidden or eroded. You pass by 3 marble headstones, which are laid in more recent times and are still legible. The first one is that of Indigo Asgard, a pig farmer who died at the age of 42. The second pays tribute to Rivera Knopf, a violin maker who was 61 when she died. And the third is the headstone of Velma on Yash, a basket weaver who died aged 43. Let's examine the tomb. Oh, well, this ain't good. The tomb is built of sandstone, which has turned black over time. There are carved stone gargoyles on each of the 4 corners of the flat and broken steps, which leads down to a wooden door almost hidden by thick vines. You walk down the steps and cut away the vines with your sword to reveal a handle, which turns in your hand. The door is wedged shut, blocked at the bottom by dirt and debris, but you manage to barge it open with your shoulder. You stare into the musty-smelling tomb, your eyes trying to adjust to the near darkness. You step inside and walk slowly towards a stone sarcophagus which lies in the middle of the tomb. You feel a cold draft of wind on your neck and spin around to see a shadowy figure in a long and ragged black gown hovering above the cold stone floor. Its face, but for its glowing red eyes, is hidden by a large hood. "Welcome, I've waited a long time for this moment," it says in a hissing whisper. Vicious long claws suddenly appear out from the baggy sleeves as the wraith glides towards to attack you. You draw your sword and quickly defend yourself. If you possess a vampire sword, which I fucking don't, add 2 to your attack strength for each round. Okay? Wraith. I'm skill 7. It is skill 10. Stamina 8. All right. The first actual combat of the game. Let's see how we do. I am skill 7, 8, 13. He is 10. He is 20. 14. Skill 7. 9, 10, 11. Yep. 12. Skill 7. 8, 9, 10. He can't lose. Skill 7. Oh, here we go. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18. He is 10. Fuck me. 7. 16. He is 10. 16. We draw 7. 9, 10, 11. Yep. Okay, skill 7. Here we go. Finally, I get a hit on the wraith. 8, 9, 10. Okay, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. He's 10. 2, okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. I need snake eyes or I'm dead. Killed by a wraith in the tomb in Hamlin. That was Shadow of the Giants. Now, I love the concept going back to Firetop Mountain, getting that crown of chaos, the 4 giants, coming to life. But I've been reading this thing for almost 40 minutes and I had 1 combat. Like, this is one of the most boring beginnings of a fighting fantasy book that I've ever read. It just takes too long to kind of get the story going. But with that said, did I have fun? Fuck yeah. I love these books. They're freaking awesome. So that was Fighting Fantasy. What book is it in this new reprinted series? Shadow of the Giants is book 21. There you have it. Once again, I failed to complete a fighting fantasy book, but since I started playing these sort of game books at the age of 10, I've never fucking beaten one. I don't care. It's all about the story. Absolutely love it. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Most importantly, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all in the next video.